Hello everybody, this is Jeff and this is my intro video to my YouTube channel, Quick Tech Tutorials. Thanks for stopping by and showing interest in the channel. What I'd like to do with this video is just get the basic concepts of this channel out to you guys so you understand what it is that the expectations are. So anyways, the main concept that I want to get across to everyone is any content that I put out into a video, I want to get across to you in 15 minutes or less. If there's a topic that's extremely complex, what I'll wind up doing is a series of 15 minutes or less videos. So something like core data clearly needs more than 15 minutes. There might be 5 videos, each of which will be 15 minutes long. The data on here, the content that I get across to you guys is not going to be covering anything with the Hello World basics. It's going to be technical deep dives. So threads, specifics to auto layout, something along those lines, but it will not be Hello World. Now, with all that said, the channel is really going to be geared towards iOS and mobile development, in particular Xcode and Swift. I will be doing Objective-C when we start getting into topics on how to integrate Objective-C within your Swift or even C++ into your Swift code. And I will also be covering AWS only in the sense of how it pertains to what you'll need as a mobile developer, remote notifications or RESTful web services, something along those lines. So anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and I'll show you what I would pretty much expect for you guys to be comfortable with every time I start a video. So let's go ahead and start there. All right, everybody. So here we are at the Apple App Store. And what we're going to need first to follow along with all these tutorials is Xcode. So I'm just simply typing in Xcode in the search bar. You can see it pop up. It's pretty much going to be the first thing that you can find. For me, I have an option that says open. For you, it's going to have an option for install. This is the IDE that I'll be exclusively dealing with for their mobile development and iOS. Also, quick note. You can use Xcode without signing up for the Apple Developer Program. Now, eventually, when you want to release your apps to the App Store or run it on an actual device, you're going to have to be a member of the Apple Developer Program. But otherwise, for the most part, following along with these tutorials, you don't necessarily have to be. One thing when we get into hardware, such as accelerometer, gyroscope, things along those lines, that's going to change. You're obviously going to need to run that on a device. It doesn't run in the emulator. So when you are ready, you're simply going to go to this URL, and I'll post this URL down below. It's the Apple Developer Program. You're going to click on the button over here that says Enroll. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions. You can determine whether or not you want to enroll as a company or an individual or with enterprise, and depending on which one you choose, it's going to cost you anywhere from $99 to $299 a year. But that's pretty much it. And once you have that, you'll get a couple of certs from the program. You'll download them and you can be off and running and you should be good to go. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start up Xcode, and what I want to show here is how every single one of my tutorials is going to start off unless I say otherwise. So I've started up Xcode, gone to File, New, Project. Now here within my project, all these other options, tvOS, watchOS, macOS, doesn't matter. I'm going to start my tutorials with iOS single view application. The reason I'm going over this is because I want everyone to be aware that when I start my tutorials, I will have gone through these steps already. They'll flash by on your screen in about 2 seconds. And more than likely, I'll be starting up in a storyboard or one of the Swift files, but I want everyone to know exactly what it is that I'm starting with. So anyways, you can be rest assured, iOS single view application, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on next. Okay, so here we are at the project name. Your team, it's going to be something that you have. If you've already signed up for the developer program, all you need to do is drop this menu down and choose whichever team you signed up with. Your organization name, this is just straight simple text. For my quick tech tutorials, I have quick tech in here. Organizational identifier, this is something that's going to uniquely identify you in the Apple Store, and you can see down here they pretty much put that bundle identifier in there for you. Product name we'll get to in just a second. For these tutorials, the language, it's always going to be Swift unless I say otherwise. You can be rest assured that I've started it up with the Swift language. Device, universal. you obviously have iPhone or iPad specific. I'm gonna always choose universal again, unless I do something otherwise, I'll say so in the tutorial. For these three default boxes for core data, unit test, and UI test, I'm always gonna leave those unchecked. Most likely what I'll do is pull this stuff in manually so you guys will get a good feel for what it actually takes and what is actually involved in getting this stuff pulled into your actual project. So your product name, right? This is pretty much the app that's going up into the app store that you're going to release to the world and make lots of money with. So obviously you're going to name it, something cool. I don't know. Well, let's today call this something cool. And then all I'm going to do is click on next. Okay, so once I click on next, I get this option dialog of where I want to save it. It makes no difference where you want to save it, wherever you feel comfortable. I have these quick tech projects on my desktop. I'm just simply going to save it in there. Also, this box down here for the Git repositories, unless I'm actually going over a tutorial on source code repositories, I'm going to leave this unchecked. If you know what Git's all about and you want to check it, go for it. It's not going to make any difference in any of these tutorials. Again, like I said, unless I'm doing something specific with Git, this is going to be left unchecked. And all I'm going to simply do from there is click on Create. And once I click on Create, I'm going to come up to the main project and target dialogues here that you're going to see all the UI for. Deployment target, I leave this as default for the latest. Device universal, we already selected this. Main interface, this is just your storyboard. You can see over here for storyboard. Oops. And for the device orientation, I'm going to leave upside down unchecked. Status bar, style, default. Basically, I'm leaving everything here defaulted and not changing anything. So where most of my tutorials will start off from is right here at the storyboard, or from one of the code files, or one of the source files. Basically, what you can be assured of is once I've started this up, I've started up my tutorial, you're going to see this picture, you can be rest assured that I went through all the steps that I just showed you, creating a single view application. For the most part, I'll just run my test in the emulator of an iPhone 7. I'll go ahead and just start that up. And I want to show you one other step that I'm going to take in my tutorials, and I'll show you why as soon as my emulator actually starts up. But there's one thing for the schema that I'm going to deal with, and I'll always change this. You'll notice as I change from portrait to landscape, I keep getting these Xcode output messages. So if you have output that you're trying to debug with, this can kind of get overwhelming because Xcode does tend to print out some pretty verbose statements. So one of the things that I'm going to change is I'm going to go to product schema, edit schema, then I'm going to go into run arguments and environment variables. I'm going to add in an environment variable. Again, this is something I will do on every single one of my tutorials. And the environment variable that I'll put in is OS_activity mode. And for its value, I'm going to put in disable. I'll show you why here in a moment. So that's all up and running. Let me stop the emulator really quick and restart it. And what you'll see down here in the debug windows is we no longer get those output statements from Xcode. And that's because the environment variable. So I will do that each and every time. So essentially that's pretty much it. This is where we'll start all our tutorials from. If any of this stuff with the single view application was over your head, I highly encourage you to go out, find the information that you need. Once you're comfortable with it all, certainly come back. We'll put out some really good information for you, but I certainly want you to learn the basics before you come back here. So anyways, I really appreciate you guys stopping by, showing interest in the channel. Let me know in the comments down below what you'd like me to put out there for different content to make sure you guys get what you want. Let me know, give me a thumbs up on the video, and subscribe to make sure you guys get the information as quickly as possible.